Today, we're going to talk about the quest, prerequisite, and the events that you probably should do in order to obtain your first job out here. Now, before we start the whole thing, we do need to do a bit of a side quest for the prerequisite in order to get a job out here in China. First is for you to do the side quest called the bachelor's degree, where you spend 2 to 4 years of your class in order to get this thing called a diploma. Second, I want you to spend the next 5 hours of your life in order to kind of think about your achievement. Or maybe if you haven't done anything in your life, embellish some things here and there, or perhaps use an AI in order for you to create a resume or a CV about you. And that way it would be easier for you to kind of relay information to the people who wants to hire you. And as for the last one, it's one of the most important one. I want you to go to your nearest closet and get your sweatiest sweatpants. That way you can spend the whole week comfortably on your computer trying to get and obtain your first job out here in China. We're gonna start from the hardest way all the way to the easiest way to get yourself a job out here in China. The first one is job fair. You know, often companies with high budget would spend some of their money on promotion, especially to overseas promotion where most of their products usually are. That is you. And most of the time you can find this job fair online or either perhaps near a college, some sort like that. You can easily spot them just like your typical love, live, life, typical kinda promotion. You like to travel? Yes. You like food? Yes. And that's the place you want to go to. And these type of booths are typically your teaching center, training center type of booth where they promote themselves in order for new fresh graduate to join them. Back then is just your typical JET program. You go to Japan or some sort like that. Now there's all the way from Japan, Korea, Thailand, wherever you name it, all the way everywhere in Asia. So there are big upside to this and downside. I would say the big upside is that you get direct contact to the recruiter, which makes your life a lot more easier. If you do have a CV or resume in hand, or maybe a PDF version, it'll be a lot more easier. You know, some cases you get the job directly just like that over there. You know, just handing your CV, you have a bachelor's, good, you got the job. There are downsides to this as well. If it is a more competitive company where they don't have a high turnover rate, you do have a lot of competition when it comes to these kind of CV kind of deal job fair, because they're going to pick out which one's the best one for them. Company have a lot more power in these type of job fair, which the way I see it is the hardest way to obtain the job in the first place. And the second way to find a job, which is my favorite way, is to do it online. You can get your dusted Cheeto finger all over your keyboard with your sweaty sweatpants and browse away. But where do I browse? Now, that is a good question. First, I would recommend going to kind of ESL job posts online places like DVSL, Finding Job in Shanghai, or ESL City, China Cities. It's going to be on the board right over here. But at these places, it does come with a big plus and down. Now, the big plus is just a couple of clicks away in order to get your first job, and you do have a lot more places to shoot. You can just go full Hail Mary on every job post, shoot out your resume, CV, and you're going to probably end up with a couple offer by the end of the week or perhaps the next day. And of course, there is a downside to this, and that is signing up at the first place. It does take time for you to sign up to these kind of job posts. Each website, they have their own system where you have to kind of recognize and kind of get used to. But once you do have that all set up, things will be smooth sailing all in there. But there's also a second downside to this, and that is spam. Most of the time in these job posts, you do have a lot of agents. Basically, these agents are just kind of like a freelance recruiters. What they do is that they put like a fake job listing and they kind of introduce themselves to all the foreigners that's looking for a job, and they put you in the database. And if there's an opening, they'll kind of hit you up. It's not truly malicious. It's like a positive to both sides, but it does get kind of annoying saying the same thing all over again to every other freelance agents out there. But overall, getting a job online is a lot more easier in comparison to the job fair. So it's a big plus. Plus, you don't really have to get off your mom's basement. The next one I would probably say is the easiest and also the hardest way to get your job, and that is through connection. If you do have someone that you know that's already working in China, or maybe a Chinese person that knows they still have connection out here there in China, this will be a lot more easier and a lot more advantageous for you and for the person that's helping you. Now, hear me out now. This sounds a bit confusing, but trust me, the process is beneficial for both sides and easy. Basically, a freelance recruiter, like I mentioned earlier, would probably try to get a lot of foreigner in their database in order for them to get recruited to a job. Now, what's the incentive of these recruiter? And that is money, recruitment money. Basically, if you recruit a foreigner to come work in China, you get a set amount of money, which is quite hefty sometimes, like about like 5,000 up to 10,000 depending on what company that's hiring them. So basically, if you do know anyone that worked in China, me, you can just hit me up. You can just ask the way. Hey dude, can you hit me up with a company in China? And you'd be glad to do it for you, because most people that lived here for 2+ years at least already have at least 5 connections to different companies. Because that is quite important, because you never know what's going to happen. You do need to hit up a lot of companies. But overall, do the same thing to a person that used to live in China or a Chinese person that's in America. They do that for you because they would hit up some friend, try to find some company, and that way their friends or him or her, get money and you get a job. And this way you can get the most out of your money as well, because recommendations are valued a lot more comparison to someone online. And as for the last one, the best way to get your first job, I would say this is the most viable as well, but also the most expensive and the easiest as well, is to just travel to China. Yeah, it sounds crazy, right? Especially if you don't know anything about China like I did when I first came here. So what you want to do is just travel to China and hit up some bars. Basically, that's about it. Usually a lot of expat here are lonely, just like me. We like to make new friends. If you meet another person that speaks English, damn, that's like the best thing that probably happen any day, because sometimes you do feel lonely out here. Besides the point, having connection will be the best thing for you. Overall, not only that, there are also big incentive for a lot of companies to hire persons that is within China than that is outside China. Because once you are in China, the process gets a lot more easier for the company to hire you at the first place. So if you do decide to travel to China, which is a lot more easier now, they do have a new rule coming up, which you can get a 24-hour visa or like a 72-hour visa or 1-week visa, some sort like that. You can check it out on the Chinese government website, and you pay a couple of dollars to get your visa. Kind of travel around China, see which one you like better. You can easily hit up some bars and get some connection and get yourself a job easily, just like that. And when it comes to expat out here in China, they've already had a connection with the company, connection straight to the recruiter or the head honcho itself. You can get a job as soon as the next day, which they'll process your visa, etc., just like that. But the only negative side about this is that you're doing a full-on Hail Mary. You do have to communicate with a lot of people here and there at bars. And this can be quite overwhelming for some people like me who don't really like to interact too much. But the big net positive, in my opinion, is that you get to touch base on the places you want to go to. For example, you're not quite sure where to live. You want to either live in maybe Shanghai or Shenzhen, or maybe perhaps Chengdu or some sort like that. You're not quite sure. So you just decide to get a flight to Shenzhen, take a train to Chengdu all the way to Shanghai or some sort like that. And you get to see, hey, you know what? Maybe Shenzhen's the best place to live. I'm gonna go live here, find a job here, hit up the expat around this area. Bada bing, bada boom, you're done. But yeah, that's basically the gist of finding your first job in China. But yeah, that's about it. This is getting a job out here in Shenzhen, China, or in China in general. It's not too hard. All you gotta do is just take a week of your life to find yourself a first job. And you know what? To be honest, the process of finding a job out here in China is a lot easier than signing up for McDonald's, where you have to fill out 20 questionnaire in order to find the right candidate. It's ridiculous nowadays. I remember signing up for my first job out there in America. But yeah, that's about it. If you can help me out, click on the subscribe button down below. I'm not sure how many subscribers do I have right now, but I'm assuming less than 15 subscribers. And I would truly hope that you click on the red button down below if this information can help anyone out or you out. And that way I can be happy and achieve my very first goal of obtaining 15 subscribers. And as always, thank you very much for listening to me. Until next time, SoulQuest logging out. And of course, don't forget to comment down below if you do need any help at all.